Hey, and welcome here to ESAB. We are getting to look over the brand new 60iX. It's an upgraded machine over the original 60i that we launched about 3 years ago. What did we change? Well, there's a couple things that we changed on the inside, just with the PC board, making things a little bit more efficient. And then we made some upgrades actually to the QD quick disconnect, which you can see here and in here. We made this to where there's no more exposed connectors, either inside or exterior. So what that did is it made it to where no matter how I put that on there, it engages much easier. And so that's a really nice upgrade. We also changed a lot of the guts on the inside of this so that it transfers energy even better. And at the end of the day, what we discovered is we got a little bit of extra cut capacity out of it. So this machine we're now rating at a pierce capacity of 3/4 of an inch. It can edge start 1.5 inches. The other upgrade that we did is when I go on the inside, notice now the electrode is actually black. It's our brand new black series electrode. What that nice electrode offers you is 60% longer life on your electrode. When you have longer life on your electrode, your nozzle also lasts longer, and so that's a big improvement. 60% is a big number when you're talking about extra consumable life. And so when you put that back together, now I'm rocking and ready to go again. There's your unshielded version of the consumable stack up. We do offer a shielded version as well if you were needing to do any kind of drag cutting. But a lot of times, frankly, a lot of people love the visibility of the front end of the SL60 or SL100 torch. That visibility, the ability to see the arc, watch your lines, watch what you're piercing, it just is so much nicer to work with versus having something that you're having to drag cut with or a shield that's covering all of that. So you see that often in a lot of our competitors' machines, but in our machine with that nice SL60 and SL100 torch front end with the unshielded, produces just a beautiful sharp arc. It's really fun to cut with. So the brand new 60 went over just what 60iX. So the brand new 60iX, it's an upgraded version of the original 60i for those reasons. So let's turn it on and I'll give you an overview of the machine. So as you turn it on, you'll see it goes over and shows you what its rev is. It's saying what it's hooked up to, which is 240 volt power, and then gives a little bit of a test to see if you actually have air into the system, and now it's ready to go. Beautiful bright LCD screen. You can see this from clear across the room 50 feet away. The beautiful part of that is if you're a manager on a line, I can literally from 50 feet away see if the settings are correct. And frankly, in plasma cutting world, that happens all the time. Somebody thinks if a little air is good, more is better. Let's crank this up. No, that's not better. It's the same as in oxy-fuel, right? If you have too much air, too much oxygen coming out the end of your oxy-fuel torch, it makes a mess of your cut. The same is true in plasma. You're putting compressed air into the back of the system, 90 to 110 psi, somewhere in that range. And what this indicator is telling you is based off of my torch and my length, I should be in that green zone. That's where you want to be. I can tell from the front end of the display I'm in cut mode, my torch is correct, my gas is correct, and my amperage is correct. I'm rocking and ready to go. So me, as a line manager, I can actually see that from a distance and know everything's set right. If you walked up to the line and you actually saw something that looks more akin to this, or more akin to this, and you know these guys are supposed to be cutting, but they have it in gouge mode, they've got the wrong torch lead, and they've got the wrong air setting. It happens, right? It happens. Between first shift and second shift, it's always the other shift's fault. And even though they might have green here, you could see it's in gouge mode. What do you mean gouging? You can gouge with a plasma? Yes, you can gouge with a plasma. It's amazing. I'll show you that here in a little bit on the 60i. This thing can stretch a beautiful arc for gouging. All right, so if we're going to do cutting, where do I need to be, right? So it's just a simple push button. You can see how this is cycling through. I need to get back to my SL60. That's the torch that I have here, 25 foot. What did those segments mean? That meant 25, 50, 75, and 100 feet of what this machine's capable of. 100 feet of cutting torch. None of our competitors offer that, by the way. So, wonderful setup to be able to do that. Now I know I can actually set my air pressure based off of that, and I need to be actually in cut mode, which is what that is right there. So you saw it go through the purge mode, back to cut mode. Now I can set my amperage. If I have a 60 amp tip in the front of the torch, which I do, you want to set it at 60 amps. If you have thinner material, like you're going to go cut gauge material or 10 gauge, and you need to cut at 40 amps, put a 40 amp tip in there, cut at 40 amps. That's the right way to do it. It keeps the pressure of the actual arc correct for the consumables, the way they're designed, the way the tornado is squeezing that arc. You want the right amount of amperage to push through, along with the right gas pressure designed for exactly 60 amps. If you got to go less because you're cutting thinner material or you're gouging a thinner part, for sure, go down, set it at 40, but put the 40 amp parts in it. We also have fine cut parts all the way down at 20, and you could put those 20 amp tips in there and cut like 20 gauge material, and it's gorgeous, right? So lots of options on your cutting side of the business. A lot of people are really interested in how thick things can cut. So let's lay down a couple of cuts. Let me put my PPE on. I've got my glasses. Off with the hat. On with my hood. Let me check to make sure I've got the right shade. So oftentimes you want to, when you're cutting, actually put it on shade 7 for cutting. In this modern era, I mentioned on some other videos, beautiful, amazing hood with this Sentinel A50. It's my favorite hood. I love it. And predominantly because I have the ability to do that shade 7 for cutting, and then I can really ramp it up to shade 11, 12, 13 for gouging, because you're seeing all the brilliance of that. And this machine can really deliver for you there. So I've got it in shade 7. I'm ready to cut. Got my gloves. I'm protecting my skin all the way around, because you don't want to get that arc burn. It's kind of like a sunburn. That's something that in welding and plasma cutting you want to avoid. So it's simple. Just cover your skin. Don't be welding and cutting in a tank top and shorts, you know. So 60 amps. I can see all my settings are correct. The last thing I want to do is I want to fire the arc just like you would if you had an oxy fuel torch and you push the oxygen lever and you want to see that nice beautiful stinger. Same thing in plasma. I want to fire this and I want to see a nice sharp clean arc coming off the front of that torch. Just a quick check. Beautiful. Looks amazing. Right then I could see it is a really sharp arc, ready to go. This is going to produce a really clean cut. Okay, so let's start off with some 1/2 inch. Get that 1 inch out of the way. Do a little 1/2 inch action and then we'll go to 1 inch. Right away, I can feel that has more power than my 58. It's just a brighter arc, a little sharper arc density coming off of the front of this system over the 58. And that's, you know, it's like driving a Porsche or Ferrari, I guess, versus a Toyota. So there you go. We can also pierce some material. Nice sharp arc, that's going to pierce through this 1/2 inch like nothing. Awesome. Nice and clean. Any little dross like that just falls right off. And the last thing I want to show you on just this thin 1/2 inch is a nice little bevel cut. So let me lay down a bevel.
Thought I'd get a little creative with that, like a snow plow front end, something like that. One thing I do want to show you, as I traveled a little bit slower through this material and then I sped up toward the end, watch what happened with the dross on the back end, right? So if you travel a little bit too slow, you get some chunky dross on the bottom. Look at the other side though, where I did the right cut speed, 0 dross. Same thing with my circle. You can see just very, very little dross. I'm traveling the right cut speed. How do you know what's the right cut speed? Well, what I'm actually looking for is the sparks that are exiting the bottom of the cut. So if I do one more cut here, as you watch, notice the sparks as they exit the bottom of the cut. I'm looking for about a 15-degree angle on the bottom of that. That should be pretty good. Let's see. Yep. Very, very, very little dross. Okay. Little bit of a drag. So you can see the drag lines that are kind of shaped this way as I'm traveling across the material. Any little bit of dross that's left there on the back end, I can just give a simple scrape and you can see just nice and clean. It just pops right off. That's the beauty of plasma. I'm not welding that dross to the bottom of the cut. This thing is such a powerful arc. I love it. Let's cut some 1-inch. As I get to the end, I'm going to kind of pause, angle it out just a little bit so I get that drop cut. So as I come up to the edge, what I'm going to do is, as I straighten it up, pause just a little bit, rock that torch so that the bottom of my arc sweeps up and catches the bottom of that cut. And as you notice, I've got those slag lines that are happening because I'm at the upper thickness capabilities. This thing will actually sever 1 inch. So that was going quite easy through that 1 inch. It'll sever up to 1.5 inches, sorry. So 1.5 inches. Just got to go a little bit slower. You can see I've got a little bit of dross, which is typical as you get to your upper thickness range, right? But just like I showed you before, any dross that you've got, especially in plasma, just comes right off and you're left with just a gorgeous, gorgeous cut. Nice square top edge, bottom edge. Almost no heat affected zone. It's very, very, you're not seeing my glove, you know, smoke all up. Very, very little heat into the part. So, gorgeous cut on 1 inch. Then as I go thinner, you saw that speed there. When you go thinner, travel faster. Watch your sparks. Let's see where that ends up. A lot faster. You can even see my shake. Any of those little ridges, that's me. If I was on a machine, that'd be so smooth. So little tricks that you can do. I'll go over this in another video. Check out another video where I'm going to go over tips and tricks and different apparatus that could create semi-automated cutting, template tracing, all sorts of things like that that really make plasma cutting better. Not a bad cut, but you can definitely see why we're human, right? A little bit of the ridges in there. Now, Cutmaster 60iX, it's capable of not just mild steel. You can do stainless, you can do aluminum. There we go. Let's do these two back to back. Nice and clean, super fast. 1/4 inch aluminum. 1/4 inch stainless. You can see a little bit of that nitrided edge. That's the air, it's the nitrogen in the air that's creating that. And you get a little bit of aluminum oxide. You got oxygen in the air we're cutting with, so you're gonna get a little bit of aluminum oxide going there. Not a big deal. Just touch that with a flap disc and you're off and welding. The other thing I want you to notice is look how tiny the heat affected zone. In plasma cutting, you're just producing such a tiny amount of heat into the material because you can travel so much faster. Oftentimes, this is even less heat affected zone than you would see from some kind of mechanical cutting means as well. So, really cool. Dissimilar metals. You could do clad material. You know what? Let's do that. Let's say you had mild steel and you had a stainless steel cladding going on. Let's cut the corner off of that. Right through both of them. So, stacked material, that answered that question. On top of the fact that you've got mild steel, stainless right underneath. Many of your cladding materials are just like that. You might have a nickel compound or something that is providing toughness, abrasion resistance. You see that in agriculture, you see it in the oil field, you see it in road materials. Lots and lots of different applications where you see a clad material or some kind of hard face on a substrate of mild steel. Very, very common. All right, so now you've seen cutting, right? This thing cuts like a beast. It's awesome. So its original namesake, it really holds up to that. Let's, you know what? Let's swap the consumables. Let's put the gouging consumable in there. I'm going to go with a size C. That's middle of the road. We offer an A, B, C, D, and E. Let's go with a C and see what that looks like. So what I'm going to do, oops, I pushed the wrong button. How about that? Now you get to see it all again. So I'm back to my SL60, 25 foot, and we're going to go to the gouge mode. I'm going to go straight up to 60 amps. Why not? So as I undo this, you'll notice that the pip switch gets engaged. It's going to tell me, send me a communication error and say, hey, you just took your consumables off. No power for you out at the front of the... I just dropped my tip down in there. I'll have to go digging for that. All right, so there's the gouging tip. That's as simple as that. Just swapping out that front gouge tip. Once I get that back in there, it's going to test to make sure that it has air again. And now, back in business. I'm going to check my arc. Yep, I should see it's a little more fuzzy, right? When I go to gouge mode, this actually changed the air pressure a little bit lower for what this is needing for gouging. So if I go to do a gouge, let's pull this 1-inch material out. Let me go fish for that cutting nozzle. I don't want to ruin that. There we go. I'm going to hold on to that up here. All right, so when I do some gouging, there's a couple of different techniques that you can use with gouging. I'm not stuck or limited to just a straight push. I could do a U-shape, a round, I could wipe, I could back gouge. You might have seen this on some of the other videos. If you've seen it on some of the other videos, pay attention to the brightness of this arc and how much longer I can stretch the arc on the 60iX. Much, much longer than the lighter equipment. And frankly, it keeps up with the 82 as well from an arc stretch standpoint. It's just a really powerful little unit. And that's a testament to the electronics, what we've done over the last few years, the engineers, and the things that they've done to manage power so much better inside of our equipment. So, Cutmaster 60iX, let's see what this looks like on a gouge. First, I'll do a straight gouge. Okay, nice straight gouge. You can see I'm about 1/4 to 3/8 inch wide. I'm about 1/8 of an inch deep. So in that case, if I needed to go a little bit wider or a little bit deeper, now I could use a U shape or an actual V shape to get down deeper and wider in a particular gouge. Let's see what that looks like. Man, I love this arc. It stretches so much nicer, so smooth, and I can manipulate that arc left and right as I go across that gouge. Hopefully you're able to hear me while I'm on the mic under the hood. But you can see on that shape as I went U-shaped back and forth and back and forth. And you can see how much deeper it is than just my straight gouge. That's just a straight push. That U, I'm keeping that same angle, but I'm going in a U shape. Next one I want to show you is circular. So as I go circular, you'll notice it tends to spit all of the dross out to one side. Very useful actually if I had like a fillet weld, something like this, I could circle into or away from the T portion of that fillet. So let's see what that looks like. Peekaboo. All right, so you can see how when I was doing that circular motion, I'm spitting all of the dross off on one side of that gouge, watching my line on one side, and I'm just in a circle, 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 and forcing all of that dross to one side. Really, really helpful. It reminds me also of a semi-automated application where if you set up like an automated tractor and it has a weave function, you could actually set that weave, but set the torch at just a slight angle and you would get that same effect. Nice, clean gouge all the way across. Do automated gouging. This has the muscle, the horsepower, the duty cycle, 50% or higher duty cycle, depending on what you're cutting or gouging, and can really, really do a good job on a lengthy gouge in a different application. So next, what I want you to do is a wipe gouge. So here what I'm going to do is set this retaining cap right on the material, and I'm just going to drag it back and forth, and I'm going to pick a pretty wide area that I would normally have taken a grinder to or taken even a carbon arc rod, but it's difficult with that, right? So watch. This is pretty awesome. So you can see on that wipe how much more effective that is than, like, say, a grinder. If I needed to really remove some material, that dug in about 1/16 of an inch, like nothing. Very quiet, not a lot of sparks flying everywhere, much safer. Really, frankly, one of the #1 injuries at any facility is eye injuries due to stuff like grinding, flying particles. If you can remove that kind of a risk by switching to a technology that actually does it better, there you go. Great opportunity. Talk to your safety manager about that one. Last but not least, let me show you a back gouge. This is 1 inch thick material. With this 60i, I could easily get 3/8 of an inch down into the material, maybe as much as 1/2 inch. And you're gonna watch me do a backwards motion, sweep forward, backwards motion, sweep forward. Watch this, back gouging. So the back gouge works really well if you're chasing a crack or if you're trying to get down to the root of a weld. You can see how much deeper that back gouge is versus just your straight gouge or even U-shape. Very, very deep. That is about 3/8 of an inch into the material in a single pass. So there you go. Lots of different options there for you. Whether you're using A, B, C, D, or E, gouging, what that does is the smaller letter A is a narrower, shallower gouge. It's a very sharp arc, all the way up to a size E, which is really a bushy arc. It's going to be a lot broader, but a lot more shallow. So you could do a lot. The size E might be great for doing that type of a gouge where you need to just remove a little bit of surface material. So I wanted you to show you the middle one, size C. That way you at least get an idea and you could go up or down from there. All right, so you've seen cutting, you've seen gouging. You know what I want to show you real quick, and I didn't show you with any of the other machines. Did you also know in gouging, you could turn it way down. Let's start at like 20. Gouging on 20 amp material, what you can do is like remove the upper portion of a spot weld. Like if you're working on automotive equipment, you wouldn't want to be way up here at 60 amps. No, that's not going to go well for you. So I just looked over at my material. Let's look at this. I've got, looks like about 12 gauge, maybe a little thinner. Let me see if I have something thinner. Yeah, I do. That's good. So let's set that on top of something a little similar. All right. So this would simulate like an automobile where you'd have spot welds along here. This might be a rocker panel, might be a fender flare, wide variety of things, right? So the point is I don't want to damage my base material. This is the frame of my car, okay? I don't want to warp it. I don't want to drill through that and have the drill bit get stuck and then you wind up putting a dent, right, in your car. Those days are gone. Put in a gouging tip, turn the amperage down, and now what we're going to do is just gouge, just the top portion of this material. So I want to keep these stacked together so you can still see what I did. So there's that spot weld. Spot weld's gone, right? There's your underneath. There's your substrate. No damage, no warpage. I can look right down that line. No warpage to my substrate material. Super critical. If you're working on your classic Ford that you've saved a lifetime for, and now you're going to go take a jigsaw to it, or you're going to take a drill bit to it and create damage that then you got a Bondo? Nah, don't do that. Those classic cars are awesome. You can use this type of tool to surgically remove things that you don't want there. Rusty floorboards, fender flares, rocker panels, doing chops or drops. Great system to have. Great flexibility in that type of a gouging application, right? Only removing what you need. Very surgical. All right. So that showed you a little bit of a thin to the thick. You know, I mentioned semi-automated applications. That ability to take the torch off and then put on a straight torch, like a pencil torch, for doing things like bevels on an automated track. Things like automated gouging, if you have that weaver like I was talking about and you need to automatically gouge out the root pass of a weld. Great machine to do that. The thing you could do is actually put it into trigger lock right here for cutting. Put it into trigger lock and you can see then that you could tap the trigger on. If I connect, watch, I'll do it right here. I'll tap on and you'll notice I'll let go of the trigger. That's what trigger lock means. So let's grab this piece here. And you'll see, I'll tap it on, start the arc. Okay? Let's do it from here. I'll start the arc, and then I'm going to let go of my trigger handle. So, and then I can either choose to pull the trigger again. I tried to choose to pull the trigger again, or I can just finish out the cut.
And you can see I did a cut all the while I wasn't holding the trigger. That's what trigger lock means. Most of the time you're going to use that in a semi-automated application when it comes to the 60i. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to talk about some setup. Turn the machine off, take that off, don the old cap again, protect that bald head of mine. All right, so when you come to do setup, there's a couple of really cool features of this. We do offer a quick disconnect DINS connector. That's a simple 50mm DINS, comes with the unit. The beauty of that is I can disconnect my torch, disconnect my ground clamp, put it away for storage. I'm not tripping over things. If I was going to connect a mech torch into there, mech torch goes in, there'll be a little connector right off of here that you can connect the start-stop to. So right there, there's a example of how easy that is to set up a semi-automated application. Lots of handles, 5 points of lifting. This thing is only 37 pounds, really lightweight, huge power to weight ratio. Us versus the competition, it's not even close. 37 pounds, our competitor at 65 amps, a little more amperage, but they're 20 pounds heavier. That's a lot of weight when you're talking about hauling a machine around a job site, even pulling it around on a cart. 37 pounds, you can carry this with, one hand, lift it up and you're good to go. Simple, let me show you on the back end of the system. Simple compressed air, simple bowl, auto drip. It does have a accessibility. If you were to create a fully automated system, you do have the ability to convert this system to fully automated. 90% of the applications out there for this type of system are handheld though, so you don't want to be burdened with that extra cost. So we leave it blank, but it is an easy, simple upgrade. Couple of adjustments, and you've got a CPC port that you could connect like an automated table to. So simple there, off and ready to go. Turn the machine on and you're off and cutting. When you supply the air, you're going to put air between 90 and 110 psi supply into the back of the machine. This machine, for your convenience, comes with a 200 to 240 volt plug on it, already connected. It is capable from 208 to 480 volt, configured as a single phase machine. You can purchase a 3-phase machine if your shop is so equipped. Same thing, from 208 to 480 volt, 3-phase, and it would come equipped with a 3-phase 4-wire input wire on it. You supply your own plug on that one. There's just such a wide variety of 3-phase plugs out there, so it's hard to choose one. Whereas on the single phase, I'll show you, I'll disconnect it. It's just your standard 200 to 240 volt single phase that I'm plugged into. So for your convenience, that comes in there. Guess what? Competition doesn't offer that either. It doesn't come with anything. So at least on the 200 to 480 volt single phase, you've got a plug that comes easy to get up and running. All right, that's it. That's the new 60iX. You're gonna love it. Go check it out at your local welding supply. See us online. Come see us at a show. Hopefully when this whole COVID thing lifts, you can come see us at a show. But in the meantime, check us out online. That's where we're making these type of videos. I'm Chris here at ESAB. Great to see you out there.